How's it going, everybody? Today is a new day. Technically, it's been a new day for about a week. What am I talking about? Here's the deal. Last week, the Neon banner dropped. Everybody was freaking out about Neon because everybody wanted to get Neon because Neon is a limited operator. Now, she's not limited in terms of she's not coming back to the game. However, she is not being added to the standard banner pools. So you're gonna have to wait for the next Neon banner in order to pull Neon. So in that case, she is a limited operator. Now, in order to move on from Neon, we got to move on to the next limited operator. Now, from this point on, there are going to be spoilers about who is coming to Arknights moving forward. So if you don't want spoilers, go ahead and skip this video. However, there is going to be a lot of information to cover in this video about who is coming to Arknights next, who you want to save up for, and should you save up for them. So without further ado, here is where we start the spoilers. So the next limited operator coming to Arknights, we don't have an official date yet, but we know it is W. Now, W is a super sweet operator, but before we get to W, there are a lot of new operators coming to the game. And you guys want to know, should you buy any of these operators before you go and buy W? We're going to talk all about that. We're going to go into all the operators. I'm going to give them a quick overview of all their stats, their traits, their talents, all that kind of stuff. And then I'm going to give you some quick thoughts about why they're good, if they're good. So before we get into the banners, I do think it's important to address that we don't know officially when these banners are going to drop. However, they should all be dropping within a 2-month period if we're following the path of CM. First up would be the Ceobe Banner. It would drop with a new contingency contract, which should be dropping around early to mid-September, followed by the Bagpipe Banner 3 weeks after that, lastly by the Phantom Banner 3 weeks after that, and very shortly after the W Banner. So all these banners are in a very short time scale. So first up, we got the magic girl herself. We got Ceobe, we got Ceobe, we got however you want to say it. I'm going to call her Ceobe. So here's the deal. Ceobe is a very good caster. A lot of people compare her to Aya Fiala, and while she is similar to Aya Fiala in the sense that she deals a lot of arts damage, she has a lot of differences from Aya. So let's go over what Ceobe does real fast. And now I just decided I'm going to call her Ceobe instead of Ceobe. I don't know what to call her yet, so let's stick with Ceobe for now. Ceobe's talents. First up, we got Whittling. When attacking, she's going to deal additional magic damage equal to 44% of the target's defense. Now that is huge because one of Ceobe's biggest strengths is taking down big old tanky dudes. Those guys that have a ton of armor that take a long time to kill, she is your girl. She is going to absolutely vaporize them. Okay, next up we got Lone Journey. So when there's no allies in the 4 adjacent spaces to her, she's going to get an attack speed and attack boost. Huge. She is dealing massive amounts of damage. Only really downside to this, really, I see, occasionally there are maps where you can't take advantage of the no allies, but really plus 8% and plus 8% attack speed, not the biggest buff. It is a nice buff. Don't get me wrong. You'll always take a buff when they give them to you, but in the end, not a game breaker. So next up, skill 1, we got Very Cold Tomahawk. All about that crowd control. So the next attack is going to do 180% attack power, prioritizes an unblocked enemy and binds them. So that's huge, the unblocked enemy, because obviously if they're unblocked, it means that there's no one in front of them, which means the bind is going to keep them from getting to your other units. Crowd control, it's amazing. Next up, we got skill 2, which is probably the skill that is most likely going to define her. She's going to highly reduce her attack interval, so she's attacking more per second. She's going to prioritize the unit with highest defense. And as we already know from her talent, she absolutely loves to attack enemies with high defense. So she's going to absolutely shred those enemies, wipe them off the field, so that way your defenders, your guards can take care of the smaller guys and they don't have to worry about dealing all this damage to the bigger guys. Next up, her skill 3. She's going to be increasing her attack range. She's going to be increasing her attack, and she's going to change her damage type though to physical damage. So she's no longer dealing magic damage. And she's going to prioritize the units with the lowest defense. Okay, so this ability is really, I'm interested to see how this ability is used, if at all, because this completely changes her kit, right? Because her whole kit is based around dealing damage to the units with the highest defense on the field. However, now we're switching from arts to physical damage, but she's prioritizing the enemy at the lowest defense. So I'm not exactly sure how that's going to be utilized in the best way. So what do you get from your Ceobe? Well, you get a ton of damage, especially when targeting high defense units. When you compare it to AFEL, yes, AFEL also does very high damage, but Ceobe has a little bit more utility. She has that first skill, which is all about crowd control, and she's got that third ability, which is a very unique DPS style skill. I just think that they're very different in the fact that Ceobe has more utility to her. She's going to have a lot more spaces she can be used than AFEL, where AFEL is really just raw damage. So next up, we got another arts user where, let's see, we got, okay, there she is. So we got Lazy. Lazy is not very lazy. Lazy is sweet. So she is a super unique operator. So what Lazy's trait is, so she's going to be another caster. Her attacks are bouncing between units up to 3 times. Now what this means is she's going to be hitting a total of 4 enemies. So your first enemy is going to have 100% damage, second enemy 75%, third enemy 50%, lastly 25%. She's also going to be inflicting slow to those enemies. So she's got a little bit of utility to her. She's not straight damage. So as far as talents go, her uninterrupted passage is going to be buffing her attack when she's attacking unblocked enemies. Moving forward, we got skill 1. Incredibly basic. She's just increasing her attack. Moving on, skill 2 is where it gets interesting. Her attack goes up by 100%, and they no longer reduce damage after each round. So she's doing massive amounts of damage. So each attack is an AoE attack as long as the enemy units are close enough. And that is a limiting factor, because if the enemies aren't close enough, that means the attack is not going to bounce from one to another. Now, I'm not sure how far that distance is, but if she's not attacking a group of enemies, or at least a string of enemies, her DPS actually is going to be going down from what it potentially could be. She does have that CC potential. She is slowing every enemy she hits, and she's doing a lot of damage because each attack is going through to another enemy, up to 4. So in summary, she kind of sits right in between a single target caster and an AoE caster. Her DPS is going to be higher than a single target caster when there are more than 1 enemy units all combined, but because she's only limited to hitting up to 4 units, she is going to deal less DPS than an AoE caster on a ton of enemy units. But if there's not a lot of enemy units, she's going to be dealing less DPS than a single target caster. So while what she's doing is not very unique in terms of dealing arts damage with a slow, how she does it is very unique, and I think her design is great. I think Lazy is a very cool caster if you're looking for one. And lastly on the banner, not a new operator, but we have, where'd she go? Lapland. Lapland, the girl. I'm not going to talk too much about Lapland because there's plenty of other videos, including mine right up there, talking about why Lapland is good. But Lapland, great guard that deals arts damage, fantastic range. She's pretty tanky. She can pretty much, solo things all by herself. She does a ton of damage. But she fits into this banner very well in terms of that she is another arts user. Okay, so now moving on from the Ceobe banner, we go to the Bagpipe banner, which a lot of people are excited about Bagpipe. First of all, her design, super good. Let's look at her E2. That's just fantastic design right there. So here's what Bagpipe's kit is all about, is damage, and wait for it, damage. So Bagpipe is basically a Vigna, basically a Reed. She's going to be getting DP on kill, and she's going to be doing a lot of damage while she does it. So first up, her talents, and let me tell you, there's going to be a lot of percentages here, so let's try and keep up, because I have trouble keeping up with this. Every attack has a 28% chance to increase the attack to 130 and attack an additional target. So basically, she has a 28% chance to deal 260% damage. That's a lot of damage. Next up, we got military tradition. When in team, all Vanguard operators gain initial SP of +8, which is huge, especially if you need to explode your team. Like, for example, Myrtle, already busted. You give her an additional 8 SP when you start the match, even more busted. So if you got a team full of Vanguards, which admittedly is pretty rare, but if you're playing something like Contingency Contract, where you're kind of limited on operators, can't use guards or defenders, and you're stuck with Vanguards being your ground units, my dudes, she's gonna kill it. She's gonna be your prime damage dealer, and she's gonna help your Vanguards absolutely explode in potential. So as far as our skills go, skill 1, we got attack boost, attack speed boost, right? More damage, which also means that every attack has 20%. So the more she attacks, the better chance that that goes up, which means more damage, which means more attack here. We got a lot of damage, right? Next up, skill 2, we got next attack is dealing 160% attack power. Again, more attack, and attacks an additional time. Now, each of those attacks has a chance of triggering her talent. So now we got more chances to deal more damage. You get what I'm saying? A lot of attacks, a lot of percent chances to deal a lot of damage. It's hard to keep track of exactly how much damage she's doing, but let's just say she does a shit ton of damage. Okay, so her skill 3. Increase attack interval, so she's slowing her attack down. She's adding a block count, and her attack and defense go up by 90%, and her attacks deal 3 hits. That is massive, right? So first of all, her attack going up basically double is huge because her attack is already high. Each attack dealing 3 hits though, so each attack has a 28, let's say a quarter, because it's basically a quarter. So each attack has a 0.25% chance to increase the attack to 130%. Then you double it, that damage output is unreal. And also a big factor is this skill, adding a block count +1 is huge, because one of the biggest weaknesses of vanguards like this, where they generate DP on kill, is just that their DP generation is on kill. So if they don't get the killing blow, then they don't get the DP regen, which is what they're supposed to be doing. They're also not consistent. So if they're in a lane where all of a sudden no enemies are showing up, they're not regenning DP, whereas someone like Texas is going to continuously regen that DP. She's always going to be able to activate her ability and get you more DP. But Bagpipe has a choke point. If she's not killing enemies, she's not gaining DP. And one of the reasons why they cannot kill enemies is if their block count is only 1 and enemies are going through them, they're limited as to how many enemies they can kill because all of a sudden the enemies are behind them. But with this skill, you increase her block count. Now she has more enemies she can kill, and she's becoming more of a choke point, which is what operators like this need to be. These need to be your vanguards with higher block count, so that way they can stop enemies, kill one, and then there's another one immediately behind it that they can start working on. So our skill 3 is perfect because it mitigates one of the biggest weaknesses when it comes to these type of vanguards. So next up on this banner, we have a unit who's already in the game, which is Zima. I'm not going to talk too much about Zima because, let's face it, you're not rolling on this banner for Zima. Zima is just fine. She's another vanguard. She's basically a vanguard buffer, if you will. So let's look at her skill 2. She increases the attack and defense of all vanguards by 45%. But if I'm being honest with you, you're really probably not going to be using Zima. She's kind of bottom tier vanguard. She's really not that great. So as in terms of rolling on this banner, you're not going to be rolling specifically for her. So next up, in terms of new characters, we got Cessa. Now Cessa, his design is super, super cool. I love how he looks. His E2, it's so good. The art alone on this banner is fantastic. So let's talk Cessa here. So Cessa's a sniper. He's an AoE sniper, and he's kind of fighting in that same territory that Executor fills currently. So if we take a look at his talent, when deployed, all blocked enemies receive plus 16% physical damage. So basically, Cessa's kit is all about synergizing with your high block count units. He's going to be synergizing best with your defenders, with your high block count guards like Blaze or Spectre, and we see that in his skills. First off, skill 1, nothing exciting. It's the basic attack plus 60. Boring. Next up, we got some really cool spice here. Time delayed vibrating gadgets. So his attacks are going to change to firing a time delayed grenade, dealing 210% physical damage after exploding and inflicting -10 attack speed to the targets for 3 seconds. Now this skill is super cool. First up, you're dealing 210% physical damage, which is already a ton of damage. But the reason why this synergizes so well is because you're probably going to be stacking them up next to your defenders and guards, right? So inflicting that -10% attack speed to all targets within 3 seconds, it means that your guards and defenders are going to be able to survive longer. So he's synergizing super well with your guards and defenders. His kit is just, it just works very well. I think I honestly like him a little bit more than Executor, plus his range is just like way better. Like having that extra row of range is just fantastic. So he can go over several lanes, which is very cool. But overall, Cessa is just a really cool character. His weaknesses really are just enemies with high defense and wraiths. Like if they're not being blocked, then he's not getting that extra damage boost, and really that's like his only weakness. Finally, on this banner, we got Usage, which right here. So Usage, she is, I'm super interested about this character because as of this video right now, I do not have a Helliger on my roster. Now I know what Helliger does. I know what he's capable of. He is a beast. Usage is basically a baby Helliger, right? She got super high defense. She's got a lot of sustainability, and she can't be healed by other operators. So if we look at her traits, obviously she can't be healed by other operators, and she heals based on every hit. So the stronger you make her, the stronger she's going to heal. So if you get her up to E2, she's going to be healing 70 HP per hit. So if we go to her talent, serious mode, based on the HP she's lost, she's increasing her attack speed. And we already know the faster she attacks, the more HP she regens. So the lower she is, the more HP she's going to regen. She's going to get herself back up. She's going to get whittled back down. She's going to whittle herself back up. She's going to whittle back down. It's a never-ending cycle. It's so good. So if you look at her skill 1, she stops attacking enemies, reduces the block count to 0 so everyone can go straight through her. She's going to increase her defense by 160%. And if you're wondering why you would increase a unit with block count 0's defense, well, if you have any AoE enemies, if you have any ranged enemies, they're still going to target her. So super nice to have that. And she recovers 8% of her max HP every second. So if you need that extra little survivability because she can't be healed by other operators, that's your skill. Otherwise, the one that's really unique is her skill 2. Now her skill 2 is a little bit not synergistic with her kit, and I'll explain what I mean after I say it, because initially it sounds like it does. So when you deploy her, she's going to immediately lose 50% of her HP, and if we remember, the closer she is to, well, 70% health loss, the faster she's going to attack. So it's kind of a little sneaky buff there. She's going to increase her attack by 80% and change damage type to magic damage for 15 seconds, which is huge. Anyone that plays this game knows magic damage is huge, especially guards that deal magic damage. So why do I say this is a little bit counter synergistic? Normally, when we have these types of abilities where they're on deployment, usually we see them on specialists like Project Red, like Gravel, like Phantom, who will be coming up later in this list. But we see these on units that have reduced deployment costs. Usage's redeployment time is 70 seconds. So how often are you exactly going to get to use this ability per match? Once, maybe twice if you deploy her really early on. So while it's a cool ability, it doesn't seem like the best ability. It seems like skill 1 might be the one you use more often, and then skill 2 is used in certain situations where, you know, you just need that magic damage and you don't really have another better guard. I mean, I don't know. I like the ability. I love the concept of the ability. But the fact that her redeployment time is so slow, it makes me lose interest in it just a little bit. Design though, very cool. Design on this banner overall is just fantastic. These new characters look insane. So next up, we got a new banner. We got the Phantom Banner, or Past Illusion. This guy right here, he is one of the operators that I am most interested in seeing in action, okay? The reason why is he is so unique compared to everyone else. So first of all, let's talk about his talents, because his talents are going to dictate what he does with his skills, right? So first up, Phantom Mastery, which is really not that exciting. Redeployment time of the clone, minus 10 seconds. Now, what is the clone? Well, Phantom in the mirror, he can summon a clone with higher stats. Now, this doesn't explicitly say what the higher stats are, but I believe they equal the original Phantom stats. And the clone has the same skills as Phantom, as well as a separate redeployment time, which is then reduced by Phantom Mastery. But that really shouldn't matter, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. First up, we got his skill 1. So Phantom skill 1, after deployment, he's going to gain 40% physical evasion and obtain a shield that absorbs physical damage equal to 50% of max HP for 10 seconds. So his skill 1 is all about blocking. If you need roadblocks, this is the skill to go for. If you got to put him in front of an enemy and stall him for a little bit, skill 1 is perfect. And his clone is going to get the exact same ability. So now you can stagger him. You got 2 at a time you can start using to just really delay a single enemy. Such a good skill. Love this guy so far. So what does he do with skill 2? Well, After deployment, he's going to gain 9 up to 10 stacks of attack buffs, each gaining 16 up to 20, and each attack is going to consume 1 layer. So that buff is slowly going to decrease. But if you need some high burst damage, dude, skill 2 is fantastic. And remember, it's on every redeployment between both him and his clone. Very important coming up. Lastly, we got skill 3. After deployment, he's going to immediately deal 240 physical damage to all nearby enemies and push them away with a small force. Also, they're going to inflict a small movement buff, whether that be slow, bind, or stun for 3 seconds. So Phantom is super unique because we got skill 1, he's doing some solid blocking. Skill 2, super high burst damage, and skill 3, crowd control. So he's got 3 different types of kits on him, which is super cool. Now, why is the clone so important? Well, as we know, redeployment time is already low because he's a fast redeployment unit at 18 seconds. Now, I don't know this for sure, but if the clone is the exact same as Phantom when he gets to E2, redeployment time will also be 18 seconds, but is then reduced by -10 seconds. So now we're down to 8 seconds, okay? And 8 seconds is already pretty fast. But the key factor of this clone is that when it's deployed, its redeployment time automatically kicks in. So as soon as you deploy the unit, it's going down. So if your clone lasts for 8 seconds and then it dies, you can immediately use it again, which is so sick. Which essentially, I mean, if you're using like skill 1, you can essentially just turn him into like an infinite wall pretty much. And the clone has a fixed DP rate, so it's not going to go up with every time it dies. It's always going to be 5, which is super low. And if it does have the same stats as Phantom, like, he doesn't have the greatest stats in the world, but they're pretty solid. So like the clone itself is very good. Like, this guy overall is one of the most unique characters that's in the game or will be in the game. And I love this design. I'm so excited to start playing with it. And finally, if you care about it, as far as base skills go, he is the best specialist trainer, increasing the training speed by 60%. So next up on this banner, we got Ceobe. And I think this banner possibly has the most unique characters coming out in a while. So Ceobe's talent, it's good. It's not that unique though. It's basically Pramnix's talent. So when enemies are within attack range and they have less than 40% health, you're gonna apply weakening, which basically just means that they're gonna take more damage. So she's basically your debuffer. She's gonna be helping your units. So if they're stacking up, health is getting low, but you're just having trouble finishing off enemies, boom, she can just help you burst down those enemies and deal with the crowds. So first up, we got Terminal Disease is basically infinite attack boost. Once it charges up, she's getting 40% extra attack, and her attack is really not that great to begin with, so I'm not sure how great this skill is going to be. But her skill 2 is, I think, where her niche lies, and it's in this Cursed Doll, right? So you're going to be taking Cursed Doll, which is basically just a summon, and you're only able to store 1 at a time. Cursed Doll will inflict 30% attack and defense debuffs to all nearby enemies, and it's going to deal some damage after 15 seconds. So basically, I mean, Ceobe is like kind of a Pramnix. She's pretty close to Pramnix, a little bit different. She's debuffing attack rather than magic resist. She's only hitting 1 enemy, but I mean, her design is really cool. She has a summon that deals some extra damage, so you can put that anywhere. Her range is exactly the same as Pramnix, but overall, like, if you don't have Pramnix and you're rolling on this banner, Ceobe is a perfect alternative. Next up on the banner, we got Tolopsis. So similar to Lapland, I'm not going to go too deep on Tolopsis. Most people, I think by this point, already know why Tolopsis is good. Really quickly, she's an AoE healer that restores SP to your allies, so she's effectively adding extra damage to the battlefield. But Tolopsis is just very good if you need a good AoE healer. Tolopsis is just very good. She's one of, if not the best healer in the game, so if you need one, boom, there you go, Tolopsis. Last up, we got Cutter. And now we've already had a baby Helliger. Cutter is basically a baby Chen. So our regular attacks are dealing damage twice, which is same as Chen. Next up, her normal attacks have a 23% chance to recover 1 additional SP. Now, this is basically what Chen does, just a weaker version. So Cutter is all about dealing big damage to a lot of enemies. So her skill 1, she's going to immediately throw 4 daggers towards random enemies ahead, each dealing 280% physical damage, which is cool. She's got Lapland's range. She's doing some decent damage. So her skill 2, she's going to deal 380% physical damage to up to 6 nearby enemies, and the attack is going to be doubled when attacking flying enemies. So she can knock down those drones that she couldn't normally hit. So I mean, yeah, she's a 4-star unit. She's not going to be the best unit. Her design is basically Chen's, just a, you know, a really cool design while not being as strong as a 6-star, obviously, because she's a 4-star. Really cool design. She does a lot of damage. She's just a cool unit. As a 4-star, if you roll on this, you're pretty much guaranteed to get her. But there's nothing really more to say about her. She's just a very solid 4-star unit. So finally, let's summarize, because this is probably the point that you guys really want to see, which is which of these banners should you be rolling on if you're limited in the numbers you can roll on. You can only roll on 1 or 2. Because of course we're waiting for W, but in the meantime, if you want to roll on these banners, which one should you go for? If you really need a new arts dealer, if you really need a new strong arts dealer, the Ceobe Banner is the banner to go. There are 3 incredibly strong arts dealers between Ceobe yourself, Lazy, and Lapland. If you need some arts damage, that's the banner to roll on. If you're looking for just a really cool design character, if you're looking for just strong damage, then the Bagpipe Banner is for you. Bagpipe herself, crazy amounts of damage. I mean, even Zima, she's going to be buffing all your other units, which is just more damage. Sessa is crazy good when synergized with defenders and guards with high block counts. And finally, Utage is all about doing that damage on her own. So that is the banner if you just want some crazy high physical damage dealers. Lastly, we got Phantom's banner, which in my pick, if you're going to pick one of these, I believe his banner is the one to pick. The reason I say that, while he's not the strongest unit out of all these, he is for sure the most unique. His skills are so far different from everyone else's, and the fact that his utility is split among 3 different types between crowd control, DPS, and just like straight up blocking, he just does what no other unit in this game does. So if you're only rolling for one of these 6 stars out of the 3 banners, I think Phantoms is the way to go. He's just, the other 6 stars you could be going for between Ceobe and Bagpipe, they're redundant. You can get away with a Vigna, you can get away with a Reed if you have even a Plume, or if you have an Afiala or an Amiya. They're all kind of redundant, whereas Phantom does what Phantom does. It's different from everyone else. And you have Shamir, which is, you know, kind of an added bonus, but really if you're rolling on the banner, you're rolling for Phantom. But guys, those are my opinions on the upcoming banners. Before we get to W, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know down in the comments, did I influence your decision at all, or did I change your mind about what banner you should roll on? Let me know down in the comments below. And as always, click that subscribe button. That way you always know when I put out a new video, and it also helps show me that you guys are enjoying the content. If you want to have more fun with me in Arknights, you can follow me over at twitch.tv/xjazz207. We stream usually 3 times a week, and it's usually after 8 p.m. EST, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. But guys, that's all I have for today. I want to thank you guys again so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!